Hello, everyone. Good night from Brazil, Rio de Janeiro. Hello, hello, hello. It's me again, Juliana Brito, CEO of Indie Hero. Today, with the new content, talking a little bit how to pitch to investors, how to pitch to publishers, best practice, how to do a killer pitch. That's the first step to get that investment that you need to move with your game forward. I hope everybody's enjoyed the live today. If you're watching, I would please push up the like button and subscribe to our channel. That helps us a lot to bring better content for you guys. I do not have two screens, so I will be looking to the presentation screen, but then I will come back here every like 5 minutes or something to see if there are any questions or comments. If you're not able to be here live with us today, you can send your questions to us per Discord or per email. We'll also give written feedback on everyone's pitch. We ask for about 2 weeks. You should be receiving them per email mostly. And then with that, you guys will be able to improve your pitch. We also, after you guys receive the feedback for the pitch, you can redo the pitch and deliver it to us again on the email with the feedback. There will be a link there that you can submit your pitch for a second or third or fourth feedback. As many as you guys want until you get this awesome pitch for your game. I think that's that. Let's just start. Let me just share here my presentation. Thank you very much. So let's just start here. So there's a lot of different kind of content about pitch. You can do elevator pitch, you can do investor pitch, you can do a competition pitch. What we're going to talk here today is about the game pitch. That's what's interesting for us. And then I think the whole point that you have to understand about the pitch normally is a presentation about 5 minutes. The objective of this pitch is to get you to the second meeting. So the pitch is like the 5 minutes that you're gonna do, and then this 5 minutes will bring you to a big meeting with this investor and this publisher of about an hour, where you can explain in details everything about your game and your project. So the first 5 minutes is very important. If you are meeting, if you have like a 15 minutes meeting or a 20-minute meeting with a publisher or investor, you should spend the first 3 minutes talking about them, getting to know them a little bit better, show you actually research about them. That's always good practice. And then you go to the pitch, and then you have about 10 minutes to answer questions and everything. And we also talk a little bit more about how to answer those questions the best way. So since we're going to talk about the game pitch, there's only like every single slide on your deck have to answer 2 questions. Is it worth to make this game? Is this the right team to make it? So if you have a slide on a pitch that's not answering one of those questions, the slide should be out of the pitch. So you have to be very direct, and this is the only 2 things that are interested in investors and publishers: is this worth making, and is this the right team to make it? So here I bring you a little bit. You do not have to follow this, but if you were beginning at pitching or even intermediate level, it's good practice just to follow that. Of course, you guys are game studios and you probably have like amazing writers with you, so you guys maybe can write better pitches that are a little more developed. But for those of you that wanted to get it right, like if you do it simple, it's gonna always be right. So let's talk a little bit about the order, about how we go about that. So the first slide should be like a logo and an art, especially your most amazing art. We're going to talk about all these topics. We're going to talk about them later. So then we'll explain a little bit about the gameplays. Is a good thing to have like a 20-second video about the gameplay. As this video goes along, you explain the gameplay. Then the hooks, so what gets people addicted to a game, what's gonna make them keep coming back to play, what's gonna make them suggest those games to friends and everything. And then we talk about traction. So what's already going on for game? Do already have like some community? Do we have likes and everything? Then we talk about a little bit how you're going to market this game, a little bit about market research and everything. Then we go to the whole roadmap. So when are you going to release the alpha version, the beta version? What's our goal, your goals through the months? Then we're going to talk about the team. As I said, the team is super important. You have to explain to them that you are the team that's going to do this amazing game. So here we highlight special abilities from everyone. Then also the prizes that the team has won before to show, yes, we already were successful in making some games or not. Then we have like a little bit of the valuation that you estimate how much you're gonna sell with this game. It's good practice to bring 3 scenarios, like the good scenario, the normal scenario, and the bad scenario. Then we go and do the S, so how much do you actually want and how you're gonna spend it. And then we finish with this slide about your contact and your art. So now I'm gonna go in details about every single of those slides, so you guys really have like a step-by-step how to get it done. So let's do it. You start your pitch with like a personal presentation. Like I started here. Hello, I'm Juliana Brito, CEO of Indie Hero. And so if you're a game studio, hello, I'm John, and I'm the art designer of the team, and that's how we're gonna do that and everything. So please present yourself. It's very a bad practice is if you start just talking about your game without the person even not knowing your name. So and it makes everything more relatable. There's still like there's still people on the other side, and there's the one that are going to make decisions about investments and everything. You always have to remember it's a people business. Like, so here is an example. We're gonna have 2 links here on the description of the video from 2 pitches that went through Indie Hero Accelerator program on the first phase. They are pitches that receive very awesome reviews, and they are pitches from studios that were also in the beginning, or also on the first game. So you guys will be able to relate to them a lot. So, and I'm gonna bring some slides of their pitch, how they did it, so you guys can get some examples and make everything more tangible. So here's this Ecclesi Studio, and that's a perfect great first slide. So that's the logo of the studio and everything. Another thing that would make this slide even better, it would be like an amazing art. So we should use like the best arts for the beginning, just to like increase the expectation about the pitch. So very simple slide. You can also add amazing art to this slide. Also works very well. And then we're gonna go through a little bit about like a small elevator pitch. As I said, there's different kind of pitches. The elevator pitch is that you have like 30 seconds to tell about your project. So we have like 30 seconds during the presentation to talk about the game itself. So what is your game? Why is your game unique? Why this type of game? So that's important to answer. And you're gonna have like about 30 questions. I highly advise you guys, as you talk about that you have like a video of the gameplay going on the background as you explain the game. So that's a very good practice. If you do not have videos, it's good to have GIFs, like screenshots, arts, as you explain the game. That's like super important, especially if you do like videos and GIFs. People nowadays, they do not like very much to have like presentations that are boring or static, like we are used, like with TikTok and everything. Everything's a video, everything's a GIF. So you should also have that in your pitch. So as you explain the game, you should have a video or should have like GIFs and also screenshots. So you're gonna explain like you're gonna explain the first place like this is gameplay. So to explain the gameplay, you should not get into too much details about like the technology, like the inventory and everything like that. To explain the gameplay is like what the player is gonna do from beginning to end. So here is my game. The player has to jump and he has to solve puzzles, and then he wins. You know, like what the player is gonna do from beginning to end. And again, you should explain that, explaining the hooks, explaining why your game is unique, and explaining why this game is really relevant. So here is a little, again, example of a studio that did a slide about that. So it's like a 2D single player, psychological horror, target horror niche. And then both of these pictures here, that's saying they are not screenshot, they were GIFs, so they are moving on the screen. So it was very interesting. And then he would come and explain, and in another slide, a little bit of, that he has to go and solve puzzles, and it's a horror niche game. So this was a very good example. This is also a slide. There's gonna be a link here down in the description of this pitch that we'll be able to share with you guys. So they're very good examples. So let's go again. So the next step, you should do like your market research. Like this step is one of the most important steps. That's why you explain to like investors and publishers why your game is relevant. So you're gonna say like how much this game's gonna cost. Like if you are like, there is different kind of monetizations in games, so you can have like free to play to earn, but like a lot of the games here in GameJamPlus, they will do a premium game, no? So how much is this game gonna cost? And that should be decided based on market research. So you should go and look for games that are similar to your game, similar like other indie games in the same niche and everything, and see how many hours gameplay and everything, so how much they charge it for a game, and then use that to decide how much you're going to charge for your game. You should also like bring which platforms are you going to launch those games, so that's also super important. And then you should research a little bit how much you think you're gonna sell, how much other games like this one sold, so like in your market research. So here is you start to bring a lot of numbers, and those numbers are very, very important. So here is again another example from the same studio. So he was like doing an indie horror game, and then he got 3 different games that he saw, and then these kind of games, they are the indie, and they also have almost the same number of people in their studio that they have in their team. So he's saying, hey, these are people that similar kind of games, similar number of people in the studio, similar everything, and they sell a lot. So he is making like, okay, indie horror games sell, so that's why I'm doing this game, and that's the market research that support my decision. So that's super important. So like the investors and everyone can see that they actually like, okay, I'm doing this because I can invest money here because there's a good chance this gonna come back. So that's an example slide of that. I would really look for games that not just similar in genre and everything, but also similar in the number of people that were working on the project, and the same budget, similar budget that you guys have to do the game. Here's another example of market research for another pitch for another participant in the first installation program. So here he brought like 2 games. Here he brought a little bit more blockbusters. I would advise you guys to bring both research. As I said, you should have like good scenario, a normal scenario, and a bad scenario. So you can also like, hey, this is a scenario that's normal. Like they have the assembly budget, they have the number of people and everything. But like in this scenario here, the game just exploded. You know, they are indie, they are like in the same Jeremy and everything. And that's what can happen if my game explodes. And then you bring like a bad scenario, like saying, hey, with the community that I already have, I will sell at least like 100 copies or something like that. So like a bad scenario is like, and then together with your marketing strategy, you bring like this bad scenario. Then the next slide you should bring is the roadmap. So okay, this is how we're gonna do it. So I'm gonna do like documentation, producing. So how long how long this is gonna take? It's always good to bring this slide in a timeline, you know, but you don't have to put all the months, but you have like to put like the most important ones. So you bring like here we start social media, here we started the demo, alpha version. So this roadmap could be a little bit more detailed, like saying, okay, the demo you're gonna release like in December, and then the playtest is gonna start in January. And you bring that in a timeline. It's always a good practice to do that. And then you explain like all the steps until your game is finally launched, showing that like you know what you're gonna do. And then like you bring the ask, so how much you need to do those games. So in this kind here is like $130,000. And then it's very good practice to show how you're going to spend that. So it's going to be spent in developers, equipment, company, marketing. Like it is good practice to have at least 30% of the budget being allocated to market. I know that's like you're doing that with a publisher, and like you are pitching to a publisher and they will do the marketing. But there's no problem. Like you put like your 30% and you have a marketing strategy. It's super important that the publishers see that you are thinking about that. You're thinking about how to sell this game as you are producing it, because it brings another conception to the game. So that's super important. And then if it is a publisher and you allocate again like 30% for market, they will maybe ask for a discount, say, hey, we use the 30%, we do the marketing, so just make for 30% less, and that's not a problem, you know. So you should have at least, it's good practice for those like the iron business, like that you should expend at least 30% to market if you're doing some game and you actually want to sell it. Less than that, it's very hard to sell it. So then you bring like the team. As I said, it's like super important. So like for example here, like we have a game design that's just like 1 year experience. So as I would say, like this slide, I would say, hey, we have a team with more than 20 years experience combined, you know, since you have like 2 other participants that have like 10 plus years experience. And then you like the pitch is all about like exposing like the good stuff and not talking about the bad stuff. That's why you're gonna have like a meeting for 1 hour after that you can tell everything. But in the beginning, you focus on the positive. So always try to bring this information here. Hey, we are a team. Like from the Game Jam. Now, like we are a team and we have been developing games since like 2 years together in college and everything. And like that's where you try to bring some text that makes like can convince that you are the best team to be doing that project. Carla, yeah, we're doing in English today, but I would just say like super fast in Portuguese. Carla, a gente tem essa mesma live no YouTube da Indie Hero em português, tá? Se você quiser o conteúdo em português. So we have the same live in Portuguese with the similar content that's in our YouTube. I will ask everyone if they can also put the link of the pitch workshop in Portuguese here on the description of the video, please. So let's go. And then like after you like in order to highlight how good your team is and say, hey, we already have some other games that we launched, like Glow Growers project and Sound Wizards project. They are maybe like college projects that you guys did together, but not a problem. That's just shows that you guys did other things. Here is also important to bring some relevant prizes that you guys won for like best art or something, even like college or competitions like GameJamPlus. That's something that always says, hey, this person really is work on that. And then you finish with your logo. Like even if you're doing a game, you should do a pitch thinking that you're a studio. So studio have to have a logo and the game has to have a logo. Do not have the same logo and the same name for the both. That's bad practice and shows everyone that you're not serious about continuing doing that. And then you show like your contact information. Here is also another slide to have some killer art, like really bring those art to places. Now we are talking, now we are going, we went through all the slides and everything that you should have on the pitch. And then I will talk a little bit more in detail about good practice in general. So let's go. Support slides. Please have a lot of support slides. So as I said, you're going to do a pitch for 5 minutes, and most of the time that will have a 10-minute time for questions. And then that's when they will ask you a little bit like, tell me more detail about your marketing plan. Tell me more detail about your whole roadmap. So like normally my pitches, they have like 12 slides or something, and I have at least 20 support slides. So I can show like the investor and the players that I'm really prepared to answer any kind of questions they may have. So that shows preparedness, and that's so important when you're trying to make a deal, Then that's some examples of support slides. So that's the same roadmap slide from the same team that we saw before. That was more general thing, and they have this detailed roadmap as a support slide in case the publisher or the investor would say, hey, can you walk me through your roadmap a little bit in more detail? And then here you have like a super detailed roadmap. And then if they want something more detailed, you can always say, hey, let's arrange a meeting of an hour and I can show a whole Excel table with way more details in and have that. So that's super important. Here is also a more detailed slide about the marketing strategy. That's a question that I think that the question that appears more. Since I have been doing that, I have been going through like almost 50 groups of investors and publishers. And then that's the question that pops up the most. Walk me through your market strategy, how you pretend to sell this game, what you're going to do. So it's very good practice to have support slide on that. You should have support slides on detailed budgeting. So like we have this pizza graphic, super good for like the general page, super easy to understand, super fast, but you should have a more detailed budget of how you're going to spend the money, time wise and everything in a support slide. You should have support slide with more market research. Like there we brought like 2 3 4 examples at most, but you should have like a support slide with like 10 examples of games to show like the this niche of the game is really relevant. Like we should do a lot of support slides. Like as I said, I have like 12 slides on my presentations normally, but I do have about 20 slides as support slides, like just good practice. So what not to do? So we talk a lot about the things that you should do, but I selected the 3 most common errors of indie game studios that I hope you guys avoid. So too many details about inventory, character art, technology. So as I already told that, I know you're in love with your game and your game may be amazing and like have all these items that you worked for months to do in inventory and everything, but that's not something you should bring on a pitch. If you have another meeting of 1 hour long after, you can go in details about your inventory. But in the 5 minutes, nobody, like they are not interested to see like, oh, that's the main character, and you tell the whole story of the life of the main character, and you want to tell the story about all the characters. They are all just interesting on the concept in general for the first like 5 minutes. So, well, this is a game about like fighting against crime and everything. So a little bit more in general. And then if you go to the next meeting, then you say, hey, this is a game about fighting the crime, but he's the sad story. The character, he loses his father to criminality. Then he decides to become a superhero and the thing. And then I did Batman, you know. So too many details should be avoided in this point. And so less is more. So the pitch is about showing like the good part of everything you do. Since it's just 5 minutes, you should not lie, but you should not emphasize on things that are not great. So you should lessons more. So let's go like you have just 3 arts that are awesome. All the arts are so you didn't have a lot of time to do them. Okay, that's okay. So just use 3 arts during the whole pitch. It's better to use just 3 arts than use a bad art, because then they will think, okay, that's something I'm gonna see through the whole game. I do not want to work with this kind of quality. So in this place, just use like the best gameplay videos, the best gifs, the best everything. And if you do not put in the pitch. It's better to have to not have it there than to have something that's not awesome. Another thing about your pitch is like a small kid should understand what you're saying. So like you're explaining your game and you say, hey, and then here I have like coins and you can change these coins, like super complex ecosystem, and you have like 5 minutes to explain. Like if you are not like amazing speaker that you will do like an infographic that's perfect, that a small kid, like a 5-year-old kid, will look at that and say, hey, I understood all the coin system of the game like in 2 seconds watching this image and watching you say things. So if it's not like that, like don't put it. So he said, hey, we have a coin system that's pretty interesting. I can talk more about that. And then maybe do a support slide, go in detail about that. But do not bring that in the pitch, because if you try to explain something that's super complex or kind of not even super complex, just a little bit complex in like 5 minutes, it's not going to work. And then you guys are going to lose the opportunity. So let's keep going. So I will give some like I'm not a designer, but I will give some design tips for not designers. So for us, like I know you guys like are artists and you have artists on your team, but sometimes maybe you don't, or maybe someone that's not like the artist is already working the game and doing a lot of art there and do not have the time to do the presentation. But design matters a lot. We want to see a good like investor. His time is so little, as I told in the opening live. They receive about 10 pitches per day, and they will choose just one game in the month that they gonna launch. So that's a lot of pitches. So from 300 pitches, they will watch. They will launch one game. They will choose just one. So if the pitch not easy and cool and fun, they would just give up on that because they have like 299 other pitches to see. So it's not gonna be like they're just gonna go. So design matters a lot. So you can facilitate the life of the publisher and the investor, because they do have to go through a lot. These people, headhunters from game hunters from publishers, work a lot. So simple design tips by a not designer like myself. So text is like super old school, like engineer old school. Do not do text. So have as little text in your PPTs as possible. Just like keywords. Do not have like sentences on your slide. Like if you can have like just like one or two words, that's great. And do not have text. That's the slide in the PPT for the pitch when you present the pitch. There's a whole other universe called pitch deck that you send to investors and publishers. And that's like a deck with a pitch that you'll not be presenting. This one should have a lot of text, like not a lot, but should have text, and should have like the person should understand everything about your game just from like 12 slides or something. We're not talking about that here on this webinar. We're talking here about support slides during your presentation, because that's what we are evaluating here at GameJamPlus. So you should not have text, keywords at most, no sentences. So the three rules. That's something that's called, if you want someone to remember something, you should say to them at least 3 times. So that's something you should bring to the pitch. So if you want the publisher to remember your game name or the studio, you should talk about our studio and say the name at least 3 times during the pitch. So hello, like here, hello, I'm Juliana, CEO from Indie Hero. And then I talk, yes, Indie Hero, do that and that. That's the team that works in Indie Hero. So, and then thank you very much. Indie Hero appreciate your time. So I like, if Indie Hero is the name that I want to mark, or the thing that I want to mark, you can have more than one thing. Like maybe like your gameplay, or you have a super special hook, like super creative and everything. And then that's something you want to point and mark. That's okay. So you tell that 3 times during the pitch, in a very smooth way. Like, be creative how to do that, but that's something that will get your brand on their subconscious. So super important to do that. So everything you want to mark in your life, tell it at least 3 times. As sometimes when I present myself to someone and I want someone to really remember my name, I try to say in a way that I say my name 3 times. Or when I'm meeting someone and I want to remember this person's name, I also say 3 times, say, hello, John, very nice to meet you, John. John, let me present you to my friend. So I said like 3 times, okay, and that will help me remember this name. So that's the rule of 3, super helpful in life and everything. Do a lot of icons. So icons is a great way to like not use words, because like if you have to do money, like how much, ask, and you just put like an icon of like money icon and everything, so everybody's gonna get the reference. And it's a way to get your slides to be more clean and smooth. And we have like all these sites where you can get like the free icons, and they have like for almost everything. So it's a pretty way to give like a design touch to your PPT without not a lot of effort, because you just go to the website, download the icons, and put it in your slide, and they will look very professional. Of course, you can also use Canva. Canva is also a great tool to do a presentation. There is some problems with Canva that maybe you want to send the presentation, then there can be some problems, but I also had some great presentations that were made in Canva. And of course, Canva give you more like design options for non-designers. That's always an option. So I would say to put a limit on the number of colors you're using. So like, I'm not a designer, so I would keep my design slides to 3 to 4 colors at the most, because if I do more than that, it's gonna look cheap. It's gonna look confusing, because there's too many colors, and like just 2 colors is gonna look boring. So 3 to 4 is like the optimal space. Like, try to use 3 to 4 colors and do everything on those colors. And then you have like, okay, that's something that's aligned, and great design tip. Another thing is, like, as I said, there should be a lot of numbers in your pitch. And these numbers, they should be easy to understand, and they should be easy to understand, and they should be look nice. So here's some examples of slides with numbers. So I could say like, oh, I did a research with 250 people, and like 75% answered that. Like, when you're talking and you do that, the person was like, how many people are 75% from 250? And that's gonna be like and then this person's not paying attention what you're talking, because they like doing math from the head. So like, actually it's like super hard to facilitate what kind of number you want them to understand. So from 250 people that answer our review, so that's a very good way to, okay, that's many. And the person can get that very easy in their head and still pay attention to you, so you're not gonna like push their attention to someone else. Another way to use that is I'll do big numbers and small text. That's a good design tip that I always like to use. It brings attention to those numbers. And as I said, as little text as possible. And if this text is small, it's even better. So here's another way. Like, as I said, here I'm using 4 colors, for example. So we're not use more than 4 colors. And then I have like big numbers and like small words. And that's a way to present 2 numbers in a slide. If you separate them by, I would not do more than 2 numbers. There are different things in a slide. I think that can be this slide can look a little bit polluted, but it's something you can do. Another way to do it is with graphics. I would ask, please do not export a graphic from nowhere. A boring graphic, and also a graphic that it takes you a lot of mental time to process. Like, not a lot. Like, if it takes 10 seconds for someone to understand a graphic, there's already too much, because like, you have 5 minutes to talk with this person, and he's like, his 10 seconds he's looking to this graphic to understand. He didn't pay attention at anything you said. Like, this 10 seconds was lost in your presentation, and maybe he missed some very important information that you would tell him. So always do design in your graphics, and use a designer to do graphics, or do yourself. So like, as I said, I'm not a designer, but I can do for I don't know, I can do rectangles, and I can do rectangles in two colors. So even I can do that, you know. So and that's a very nice way to say, hey, the revenue is going up, and the percentage is going down. Like I don't even know about what I'm talking about here, but I got the information like super quickly, and I understand. And now I can pay attention to you to understand, like, okay, what kind of revenue is going up? Why does it matter that this percentage is going down? So that's what you're going to be talking about. But I got the information super fast. Here's another way to do a graphic. So instead, like, I could do like a normal graphic that's go up, but my designer redid the line just to be more beautiful. And then I have here the main numbers and the main dates. So that's another way to present numbers in a very smooth and interesting way. So that's another option for you guys to use if you need to present numbers. Let's talk a little bit, like we talk about design. Oops, I did something wrong with my screen. I'm still here, I think. So that's something I wanna talk a little bit about, you guys. Like, we talked about designs and things. I know most of the pitches are gonna be online, but I wanted to bring you some postering options. So let me see, like, just we should talk with your, like, talk forward. Let's not talk looking down. You should look on the person in the eye. That's why you should not do a pitch where you're reading. You should, like, have it memorized, and so you can do a pitch. If you are standing, you should, like, stand on both feet and do not do stuff like that, because that's very distracting. I do have ADHD, so I tend to, like, I do that, and with the pen and everything. So don't do that. That's very distracting. It's not nice. And we'll take attention to just put both feet on the ground and stay there and, like, talk with open arms, and, like, with open breath if you talk, because if you do stuff like that, or if you put your hands on your pockets, I see especially guys doing that a lot. It shows that you are uncomfortable, and, like, why they gonna invest in someone that's uncomfortable talking about a life project? They're, like, super game. Then just, like, stand there, like, and try to project this confidence, even if you're not feeling confident. And then smile is always good. Like, to not go like that. Oh, blah, blah. Like, try to smile. It's very good practice. And then be very open to who are speaking, and try to look them in the eye. Always helps. So about the voice, like, as I said, if you talk like that, you're gonna project your voice down. So if you do like that, or if you do like that, nobody gonna understand you. But if you do it like that with the high, you're gonna be able to project more your voice. And, like, super important, the pitch. So just, like, don't be like that, like, oh, I'm talking about my pitch. Just, like, stand up and, like, be happy and, like, project your voice and, like, look up when you're talking, and that's we're gonna help with all the voice projections. The pitch also has a rhythm. So as I said, you should smile, but if you smile the whole time and talk about that the whole time during the pitch, it's gonna be annoying. Nobody gonna wanna watch that for a very long time. So as you're talking about the pitch, and that's something you should train before, to say if, like, you have a comfortable rhythm. So as you're talking, you should say, hey, when you talk about numbers, maybe you can talk a little more slower, like, this is the numbers. I would talk a little bit slower here. But then when you're talking about, like, hey, that's how we're gonna sell it, and then you can, like, put a little bit more energy on your pitch. And when you talk about the team, yes, nothing like that would be possible without my amazing team. They are awesome. Like you can also show a lot of fun and animation on that. But like when you're talking about the gameplay, you can be a little more sober. So here's a gameplay, like I'm gonna explain like, step by step what you're gonna do. It's also very good to use your hands. Like so, for example, and then our numbers are gonna go up, and you do like up, and then we have like 5 different criterias, and you do a 5, and then that's a roadmap. So you can train a little bit hand signs. One of the pitches that I'm putting here from another studio as an example, the Pong Game Studio. If you watch his pitch, you're gonna see that's super good how he handles the hands, how he talks, and how he uses hand gestures to get the attention and really cultivate the attention of the people that are watching him. So try to discover what the best rhythm is for your kind of pitch. Try not to be like monotone because it's super boring. Try to have like moments with more happiness and excitement, and moments that are more sober on the pitch. All those no moments, even they're sober, you should not slack, and you should like always keep your posture during the whole process. And then finally, what you have to do a great pitch is train a little bit more. The most prepared ones, we always win them on the end, because they are the one that train more. And then pitch is about that, like training and speaking to like your niece, your sister, and getting feedback from everyone that you can get feedback. Feedback is great. Doesn't mean that all the feedback you get you should implement. There's 2 different things. But like if someone says like, hey, I didn't understand how your game works, and you like spend like 1 minute explaining how the game works, and you say, oh, this person's stupid, he doesn't understand how my game works, I explained it perfectly. Take that as a feedback, in the sense, okay, that's someone here that maybe doesn't understand about the game industry as good, so maybe can I use another words that maybe 5-year-old kid would understand, and then I can change that, and then my explanation will be more clear. So try to understand the feedback that you're getting, instead of discussing with the feedback. Like if someone got some impression from your pitch, maybe that's one word or something that used that got this person's impression, and try to understand where this come from, and so how you can improve. So train. I normally train when I go to pitch competitions. I did not talk about myself, but I have won some internationals and national pitch competitions before. When I go and do them, I always write my pitch down. I memorize it, and then I train in front of the mirror. I almost do a choreography with my hands, with my voice, and everything. So I think that's very important to train before the mirror and before other people, so you can always improve on that. And that's it for me today. I hope we did like 15 minutes about pitching. I hope there was not too much, and I hope I got you guys some good tips. I did not get questions on the chat, but if you guys have questions, you can always get in contact with us through Discord. I will keep telling that we're gonna do a remake of our Discord and like take a lot of channels there, so we can maybe facilitate the communication, because that was a concern from a lot of you. Please do not be scared when we do that. But it was still there in Discord, and you can always contact us, or per email. You can also send your doubts. And I hope this webinar helped all of you to get your investments and publishers and opportunities and partner deals that you need. We also do here, we also do a live on documentation. So After you get the pitch, you go and get this meeting for 1 hour. What should you bring to this meeting? We'll talk a lot about that with Thiago, that were here with us in the hero. And then okay, you present everything, the investor like, everybody likes, so let's try to negotiate. We also have a live here about how to negotiate and how to improve your negotiation skills, so you can have like a little bit of every single step of the way. So if you got to this point, do not forgot to subscribe, hit the like button, do all the YouTube thing. Really help us bring you more content and better content every single time. And that's it for me today. I'm finally going to sleep. And I hope wherever you are watching this live, it's time that it's not too long. Anyway, see you guys. Bye.